Welcome to Disc 2 of the Learn Remote viewing set with Major Ed Dames. Before moving forward with this Workshop 2 training, please ensure that you fully reviewed and understand the content in Disc 1 of this course. Also, to ensure that your skills will continue to grow, please make sure that you have executed practice sessions as specified at the end of Workshop 1 before starting this disc. After the first target on this training disc, you will no longer be using the sample RV templates as provided for Workshop 1 target sessions. This is done to remove the restrictions put forth by the training RV templates and encourages you to become more fluent in the remote viewing skill. Ed Dames will now provide a short lecture describing the new tangible and intangible columns in Stage 4. Let's begin.
We want to wean you away from this pre-formatted stuff right here. We want to get you to be a professional as fast as possible. So you're going to have to use that flow chart today, and the only two things in front of you will be take these out and you'll use the flow chart and the Stage 2 target descriptor word list. Those are the two things that will be in front of you today, and a bunch of bond paper that's blank. So you'll have to format your own papers. Stage 4, I'm going to introduce the T and the I columns. Tangibles, intangibles. What are tangibles? Things. Is air a tangible? Huh? Yeah. Air. It's made up of a bunch of matter. Okay? Gases. So that's a tangible. That's a tangible idea. Intangibles are usually abstract nouns or any adjectival information. So anything that you can't touch goes in the intangibles section. Anything. Commerce, love, money. Can't touch that stuff. Goes there. Sitting, thinking. But the way that we process information, we don't just jump to the tangible column. I won't know this is an overhead projector by turning my attention to it until my memory goes back and does some searches. And when it searches, it first looks visually at the box and the light and the heat and the reflectivity. It searches for things that are connected with that in my own computer. Okay, yeah, that's an overhead projector. Takes maybe 3 milliseconds to do all of that. But I had to process the raw fundamental data first. So when you're remote viewing, even though it's at a distance, the way that we process the information is still the same vis-a-vis the remote target. So in this case here, you better not say overhead projector until you say there's something here that's hot and reflective. And now sensory information in any order, right? In Stage 4, it's hot, it's reflective, it's shiny, and then there's a pause. It's boxy, it's heavy, shiny, reflective, hot, boxy, heavy. Then there'll be a pause. That pause is a separator for a cluster of information that relates to whatever your unconscious is on at that moment. That cluster of information is usually separated by a pause. The pause is your cue to put your pen in another column. Go back to the S column, see if there's something else, or move across the columns this way. Okay? There wouldn't be AIs associated with this particular box would be maybe interested. There wouldn't be many more, or intrigued. EIs associated with the box. What would EIs be associated with this? None. It doesn't have any emotions. The target doesn't have any emotions, okay? Tangible. Structure. Structure. It's got a right angle. It's boxy. It is a structure. That's all that you know. You may say structure, object, or thing, okay? Now, your unconscious is locked on this object, and as long as it's there, it's going to go about, and now we'll get more information. Go back to the S column, for instance. What about the thing? Well, it's also it's also angular. Angular is not a sensory impression, it's a dimension. So go over to the D column. It's also angular. It's also tall. It's also diagonal. This is diagonal. Okay. That's how the information is processed. And then when you have more detail in your head, now you're armed with more data. Now you can say, well, it's a tool. It's like a tool. I said the word like. Like is a comparator. I don't have the exact word. I don't know exactly what this thing is, but it's like a tool. It has a function. There's another word, function. I'm editing. I better get this down on the paper. Tool is the first thing that pops into conscious awareness. I'm moving across and down the paper. T, tool. It's a tool. And it has a function. Lower on the page in the I column. Intangible idea. Function. What is the function? Well, it's like again. It's like a toy. I don't trust that. AOL, toy. Drop my pen, that's trash. Pick the pen back up. Move back to the S column, the safe zone, sensory impressions. Okay, what else about it? Well, it's shiny and glassy, and it's heavy. I already said that, but I have to say it again. That's how we proceed across the columns. Don't say device. If you say device and it's correct, then you edited out a lot of things, and that will clog up your outbox. Don't do that. Let's say that a person is at the site writing. You've detected, you're at a site, and you're inside, and your emotions are, maybe you're intrigued. And the emotions there, let's say the person is writing a love story. That the target is a writer writing a love story. The person, what are the emotions of the person? Busy. Is busy an emotion? It's sort of an emotion. It could go there or it could go in the intangible column. Probably intangible is better, but busy would be acceptable as an emotion too. The person is busy. What are they doing? They're sitting. They're writing. They're thinking. Topics would pop up. About what? Love. Love as an intangible idea. As opposed to a target of a person writing a love letter. In this case, you have AIs, you may be intrigued again or bored. EIs, love. The person's in love. You have a life form at the site. The life form is a person. And intangibles associated with the life form, love. 2 columns. Love as a topic. This person's writing. This person's thinking about love. So you have it, they're in love and they're writing about it. Not to be pedantic, but this kind of rigor is really important like any other business. Whether you lay concrete or brick or build a wall, the rigor is important. Really important. Sentence structure and all that. We're not trying to be pedants, but if you maintain this degree of rigor and you control your mind to that degree, you'll hit any target and do anything you want in terms of information collection. The question was, when he was in stage 4 yesterday, and the target, the blind target was the Mount St. Helens eruption, the word dead popped into his mind, and he thought, he was in the S column, and the word dead pops into his mind. As a viewer, you have to decide. It certainly doesn't go in the S column. It's a high-level idea. You have to decide as a viewer where that goes. Is it pure AOL trash, or do you really feel? Now, if you feel it's important, then it goes where? In the I column.
But you can jump clear over at that point.
Yes, you have to jump clear over.
So you don't have to go in any order.
I'll tell you what. There's 8 columns on this page. 8 columns. Each of them is a venue for anything that pops into conscious awareness. I'm telling you, anything. You're not going to use the last one until level 3. But there's a venue there for everything, truth or trash, that pops in. Notice that AOL has its own column that's equal. It's up there with the rest. Don't go back and remember anything. There's no running memory here. Think about driving your car down the freeway. The gentleman was saying that he kept going back, remembering what he already wrote, and the aforementioned, it was influencing the flow of data, right? Don't do that. Think about driving your car down the freeway. All you're worried about is what's ahead, not what's behind. Because if you get worried about what you just drove, and you look in the rearview mirror and focus there, that's the end of your drive. Always look ahead. What's coming in? What's coming in to conscious awareness? What's popping up? What's percolating up? You take that, you strip it off, and you drop it in one of the columns. Something else pops up, don't edit. Grab it, drop it into one of the columns. Drop, 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 just like that. If you can't do that readily, if you can't follow your unconscious as it leads you through in the most elegant way to the solution of the problem in stage 4, then just put your pen in the column and say, hey, any sensory impressions? Yeah, there's a red and there's a loud. Anything else? No. 1, 2, 3, 4. Uh-oh, you better do something now, because 4 seconds is a whole lot of time. It's enough time for creative imagination to help you. And it will.
At this stage, the AIs and the EIs, are we actually supposed to be feeling something, or is it an idea that we...
Negative. It's actually a feeling. In stage 4, the aesthetic impact, the AIs and the EIs, the emotional impact, they are real emotions that you would feel if you were at that situation and the situation changed. Don't just say good. We want you to go deep inside with a dipstick, and we want you to really be in touch empathetically with the people at the site if there's people there or animals, higher level animals. We want you to say, hey, I feel feelings of bored. Okay? There's somebody here that's bored, or there's somebody here that's contemplative or anticipative. All right? That takes a while. It takes about 4 to 6 seconds, believe it or not, in the EI column, which is different than the other columns because emotions take longer to integrate. Our receiver processes emotions differently. It takes a little bit longer. So if you want to rest your pen somewhere for a moment, put it in the EI column. Now, during this process, from this point on, if you need to take a break during a session, because they're going to become longer as you might surmise, sessions will become longer now, the only applicable break points are at the end of a stage 4. A stage 4. So stage 4 of X, A, B, C, whatever. There. Except for the last stage 4. You can't take a break at the last stage 4 because you need to still be connected to the site when you do the site template. So don't break there. Break at the end of if you need to break. And if you've gone more than 45 minutes, you must take a break to stay alert. You got to stand up and stretch and take care of the tool. You stretch, get some water, whatever, in order to stay alert. It's like driving in for long periods of time. You got to get out of the car and stretch. This time, you'll be using all 4 of those labels in the site template. AIs, EIs, T's, and I's get labeled in the site template. Don't walk away and take a break until you do that. You have to go back to your stage 4 worksheets. There may be several. And look at the AIs, EIs, T's, and I's and say, okay, for my exploration of aspect B, I had an EI of frightened. Where does that go in my site template? Over here. I had a T of people or machine. Where does that go? All that goes over here. All of those have to be listed in your diagram, your site template. Many of you are only making entries, 1 or 2 entries in your stage 2 columns. And the sensory impressions, that reptilian brain stuff that we have that senses smells and tastes and colors, that kind of stuff, and textures, that's what gets you enough contact to whatever aspect you're working to enable you to perceive dimensions. Dimensions are in a category all by themselves. If you have dimensional contact with a target, you have contact. But you can't get there without using the raw sensory impressions as scaffolding to pull yourself in to get dimensions, okay? So if you're weak in those sensory columns, or if you just give short shrift to it, you won't be rich in dimensions. If you're not rich in dimensions, you'll fail to produce a really good analytical sketch, which requires you to sketch each one of those dimension words to render it in line form. No artistic license or creative license is allowed in that process. And if your analytical sketches are not good, you won't be able to analyze this diagram correctly. The analytical sketches are critical to the creation of a site template. That's where my emphasis is going to be today, predominantly on your analytical sketches. Not so much on your labels, but on your analytical sketches. They have to be right. And you can't have any artistic license. If you have the word rectangular in one of your stage 2s, let's say stage 2 of aspect A, you better draw a rectangle somewhere in your analytical sketch. If you have spinning as a motion and fast, that's got to be in there in line form in your analytical sketch. And you have to decide, if you've got both words, spinning and rectangular, how those are juxtaposed, how they relate one to another in your sketch. Only the viewer can do that, because you're there. I'm going to pull these sheets from a lot of you now when you're in stage 4. You're using these stage 2 target descriptor word lists in your stage 4s. Don't do that. Stage 4, you have, by virtue of having worked so hard to get to stage 4, you now have increasingly greater contact with the target or the aspect at the site. You've got a lot of contact with it. You want the information to be spontaneous. Think of stage 1, 2, and 3 as getting your bird dog, transporting it from its doghouse into the truck to the marshlands. Okay? That's stage 1, 2, and 3. You've got to let the dog off the leash now and go out and seek out, sniff out its quarry. That's its job. And you have to follow it. This is stage 4. So we don't want to use stage 2 stuff in stage 4. The words that you get when you put your pen in each one of these columns in stage 4 should be spontaneous as possible. So we want to begin to wean ourselves away here at level 2 off of this checklist here. We want to do that. Kind of take the training wheels off. You do want to use the flow chart, though. The flow chart is going to be vital to your next session, because your next session is all blank pieces of paper.
Get ready. You are about to begin Target 1. For this target, you will need the following templates in this order: A, B, C, D, C, D, C, D, E. Label the first CD set for aspect X, the second CD set for aspect A, and the third CD set for aspect B. Those that may require a break before finishing the entire session should do so only after finishing stage 4 of aspect A, which is page 6. You will then resume your session by performing a movement on aspect B on page 7 of your template sequence. Remember, it's only during stage 2 in an RV session that you may utilize your word descriptor list. This list can be found in your Learn Remote Viewing DVD case. In just a few moments, you will see Ed Dames provide the target reference numbers for Target 4. At that time, you must pause your DVD player while the target reference numbers are displayed on the screen and immediately begin your session. This session should take approximately 45 minutes to complete.
So X, A, and B on this one, and then a site template. Here we go. Target reference numbers: 15990741.
Let's continue. Please have your first completed session in front of you before you watch the target feedback. If you did not yet remote view the first target, stop here, go back, and do it now before proceeding.
The site template is the goal. By the time you hit the site template, it's over. Creative imagination has had its shot at you. It's completely over. You've done the end run. If you paid attention to detail, whatever is in that site template is at least 80% correct. And the more experience you have, the more detail is in the site template. We can jump off in the site template and do anything we want in terms of drawings and sketching and detail work, and we do. But usually we can answer a question in the site template. That's not true for the search problem, where we have to actually draw trees and fences and all that kind of stuff to find out where a body is. But for most problems, it suffices. You guys can walk up. This is a ceremony in the Hajj. This is Jamarat. Jamarat is the stoning of the devil. You see that pillar in the center there? The pillar is in a crater, a concave pit. These are thousands of people throwing rocks at it. It symbolizes a number of things. It actually symbolizes the rejection of sin, but last year's symbolized the stoning of Satan. We have a circular area, and it's a depressed circular area as well, and then we have people. We have three archetypes there. The life forms, the structure, and that circles are always, as Carl Jung knew, a circle is the most powerful of the unconscious symbols, a circle. That's a hard target. I don't expect everybody to get it. I want you to get part of it so we can correct the part. Nobody's going to get this perfectly.
And it's hard because.
Huh?
And it's hard because.
It's hard because of the emotion level. It's very complex. It's a complex situation. It's situations complex. That's all. But the negative feedback is just as important as the positive feedback. So I know this you see, you're dead on. This is a gentleman whose X is the actual pillar itself. Now I did not designate an X here. I just said, look at the target, the ceremony, Hajj ceremony, that ceremony. So you're free to pick out X. This gentleman chose the center of attraction, which is the pillar itself, which probably most of you did. This is not an easy target. Lots going on. I hope that most of you picked up the idea that there's lots of people there. In terms of circles, if you've got little circles, you know, we need to see some circles. Circles are symbolic of people. His question was, and he did a really good job on his freehand sketch, a perfect job. Perfect meaning a professional can't do any better than that. There's only three archetypes there. He captured them. But his question was, if his X was the pillar itself, in hindsight now, seeing that it's a pillar, he knows he had a structure, what would his EIs be? He didn't get any EIs. He wouldn't get any EIs from a stone, right? Stone is important to the solution to the problem, but that part of the problem doesn't have any emotions, as opposed to the A and the B. I mean, to the whatever the people become, B or A. It's going to be that's going to be a rich field in terms of emotions there too. Okay? Some of these words are going right to your unconscious, and it's integrated at that level. That's where a lot of the feedback is operative here. You don't know how this is going to correct itself, but it does because of the feedback and value. We're training your unconscious to do the job. We're leaning on the unconscious completely because you have no idea consciously what the target is. So unconscious has to do all the work. So it's getting all the training too, most of the training. If you're frustrated and you're worried and you're depressed and you're sad and you're disappointed and all that, I don't care as your remote viewing teacher because that's part of your thinking mind. That's your problem. That means you're thinking, and that's a thinking process. This process has nothing to do with thinking. It's actually your unconscious that's doing the correcting here. All you have to do is play the next note consciously. So it's very different. Our egos get abused and hurt. Mine certainly did when I learned this, but I didn't even know I had a part of me that could do this. What's an unconscious? Then I got to see how powerful it was and what I've been missing.
At this time, take at least a 15-minute break to prepare for the second session.
the Q is not synonymous with the target, except for in some cases. There are cases where we work where in your stage 3 sketch, your initial stage 3 sketch, you'll only have one thing, just one archetype. That's it. And that it has to be your X. So now the target is synonymous with the site. Doesn't happen often, but there are cases where this happens. Okay? Most of the time we have contextual information A, B, C, and D. The last target was the Hajj. That was 2003 photo from 2003, by the way. A Hajj ceremony. Wait. Hajj ceremony. And then I gave it a couple of target reference numbers. The problem with a search term like this, could we use this simply as a cue? Ceremony is the topic and the subject. Ceremony is the target. That's ceremony. Hajj is the topic in general. Here's the target. This is a cue. Could we use this without the picture? No. It would be impractical to use as the cue. Which ceremony and which Hajj? Which year? 1995, 2003, the next one in the future, mind's outside of time. Where would our mind go to? It has a free range if we don't specify it, a specific a date and a time. A specific time and a place. So by including target reference material, written or photographic, that completes the rest of the cue. We included a picture of this particular Hajj and this particular ceremony. Does unconscious have any problem discerning what the target is in the cue then? No, not at all. And furthermore, I wrote the target reference numbers and the cue on the photograph itself. That's necessary. Don't have removable media. Don't write something on a transparency, the target reference numbers, and use this as a photograph. It must be written right on the medium. Otherwise, you'll run into problems technically. We covered this more in level 3. Hajj ceremony. Easy, unambiguous. Which ceremony, which Hajj? This one, where the picture says. If it's Area 51, what about Area 51? What does that mean? Don't use Area 51. Area 51. Don't use that as a search term. Get a photograph. Get somebody's photograph, long-range photograph of this place that everybody calls Area 51, but who knows the real name? I do, but I'm not going to tell you. Area 51, okay? Get a photograph, and in the photograph, you'll have a bunch of structures and things here, or whatever. Pick one. Pick one in the photograph. Xerox the photograph, get a copy, pick whatever you're interested in, and say, I want to know what goes on there. Don't circle that. Take a line and right on the Xerox photograph, draw a line and call that the target. This is the target, and assign it a couple of target reference numbers. 1, 2, 3, 6, 6, 6, 9, 9, or whatever. Put that right on the Xerox copy. This is unambiguous. Does everybody see where the target is now? If you can see it, your unconscious certainly knows where the target is. And that becomes your target. And you run it. 1, 2, 3, 6, 6, 6, 9, 9, off you go. And you can be certain then that you'll be here and not here, 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 or spread all over the place. Pretty easy.
Would that be at the point that photograph was taken?
Yep. Yep. It would be at that point in time where the photograph was taken. Unless you broke away and you specified it some other way, which we'll talk about temporal qualifiers momentarily. But this is an easy way to look at things. If this are a star chart and you want to see if this fuzzy light, if you're an astrophysicist or an astronomer and you have a plate, a photographic plate, and you're wondering what this one point of light is, do the same thing, remote view it, and find out whether it's spurious radiation that triggered a pixel somewhere, if it's a flaw in the machine, if it's a nebula, a star, a planet, a metallic object, whatever. You'll be right on top of it, whatever it is. But don't circle this, whatever you do, on a star chart, because there are so many more. Your stage 3 will look like this. you'll have these kinds of things, and you won't know which one of those is the actual target that you're interested in. That's why we draw a very tight line to the target rather than circling it. Because in this case here, we'll capture too much background. And we won't be able to differentiate which one of these spheres is the target, if it's a sphere at all. All right? Pretty easy stuff. Now let's talk about cues, though. Actual cueing. There are several classes of remote viewing sessions. What you guys are generally working are discrete targets. A person, a place, a thing, or an event, a ceremony, a mountain, or whatever. Topical searches. Here, we're not sure what the question is. We're not sure what the question is. And when we set up the topical search, we use italics to differentiate that kind of a session from a discrete target session. So things like the Unabomber, Atlantis, Quetzalcoatl, Malinche, whatever. We're not sure what was Atlantis. Was it simply a legend, a composite of legend, myth? Or purely apocryphal? Was it a real place? That kind of thing. We're not really sure. The Unabomber, what's that? Somebody or a group of people associated with mailing bombs. Let's say 1,000 years from now, archaeologists dig up all kinds of written material that indicate that there was a great person named Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is everywhere. They find it, references it to everywhere. 1,000 years ago, this Mickey Mouse, like Quetzalcoatl, the sun god. What was Mickey Mouse? It must have been a famous person. Okay, they're not sure. They'd set it up as a topical search and find out what's what. In that case, is that a nonsense search term in terms of remote viewing? Is it nonsense? No. Consider it as a symbol. Consider Mickey Mouse to antediluvian or post-diluvian archaeologists as a symbol. And what you would get is we run a series of remote viewing probes to see what we're dealing with. In the case of Mickey Mouse, you would probably get 6 remote viewing sessions, all in a different area. A mother reading a book, people watching a movie, people watching TV. Where's Mickey Mouse? There, ideologically, in all of those things. And then the remote viewer analyzing the work would realize they're dealing with a concept rather than a thing itself. They're dealing with a concept. Okay? We can do this with symbols as well. Very rich field in terms of epigraphy. Epigraphy is the science of lost language, the study of lost languages or ancient languages, particularly where there is no Rosetta Stone. The Rogo script, for instance, in used by the Eastern Islanders, still a bunch of phallic symbols, still undecipherable. Lots of languages like that. We could take a glyph, for instance, any type of glyph, and use it as a target and pull out all of the meanings. All the meanings. If you were looking at a Chinese symbol, for instance, let's say Guo or Ren or Ming, and you didn't know what that was in English because you don't speak Chinese or read Chinese, target. What's that? Give it a name. Remote view it. Bam. And you'll find out what it means. You'll find out what that means, and you'll find out what that means. Pretty easy. And you can do that with any script, any symbol whatsoever. And you put it in your own vernacular. Because what are you using in your as a toolbox? Your own language. Or languages, as if you're polylingual.
So
those are easy.
Your question would be...
There's no question. You hit it with a couple of target reference numbers, and unconscious dumps all the data that's related to the target, in this case a symbol, down into the columns. And if the symbol has any reality whatsoever, you'll know as the columns fill up. Let's say Rogo script with this undecipherable. I keep harking back to that because I like to work it. Let's say this one particular symbol means rowing, or it means the sun and the moon. And that's what you'll sketch, the sun and the moon, and your words will be descriptive of that. These are easy targets. But cues now, the following is where we go wrong. Where where we can go wrong. Queuing. What are we interested in here? Who's interested in something?
Disease or something.
Okay.
Somebody that's sick.
What kind of disease?
Breast tumor.
A breast tumor.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say someone you know has a breast tumor.
Yeah.
What about it?
Well, you want to know if the person has it or not.
No, you just said they do.
You don't know if it has it. But
You don't know if the person has a breast tumor or not.
yeah.
Okay? Hold on to that question for a moment. Just for a moment, because it's a really neat cue that we use in our business, and it deals with superlatives. Superlatives are really useful in our work. Superlatives can be the biggest, the optimum, the largest. Let's see, here's one, Earth. Earth, Jurassic era, largest land-dwelling creature. Give me a couple numbers.
3527.
We take this, and instead of writing it on erasable media, we formalize it. We'll write this down on a 3x5 card or a manila envelope. Manila envelopes are good because you can put your work inside. That's the only reason we use that. Once we formalize the cue and we ritualize it like that, these numbers are forever connected in our target pool with this particular target. Earth. Everybody know where Earth is? Unconscious certainly knows where it is. When? Jurassic era. Very loose. 98 million years, you know. A very loose era. But still, okay, we know this empirically for targeting. Largest, superlative. They can only be one. That's why that's useful. They can only be one throughout the entire 98 million years. Land-dwelling as opposed to sea-dwelling creature. Every remote viewer has to be, we know, on that same creature. Regardless of when you remote view it and where remote, you'll still be on top of that creature. But notice that we did not designate when in the life cycle of the creature you're on it. So you could pick up the creature, let's say it hatched from an egg. You could pick up the creature during that phase of its life cycle as well as the acme of its life when it is the largest. So we didn't specify that. So a viewer can pick up the creature at any point in its life. But it will always be that one because there can only be one. Is that clear? That's an easy one. This produces a lot of symbolic data. It's a transcendental search term. It doesn't produce stuff that's related to people and a person necessarily, as opposed to Jesus of Nazareth.
That would be more specific?
This relates to, turns out, relates to a person here. But we'd still have to start it off as a topical search because we don't know if he's real or not. Just because a book says that something existed, you know, we're not sure if the book is right. That's what we're trying to check on, right? So we'll give it the shot here. This one, though, is very high. This is almost symbolic in its terminology. Take it from me. This one is the real man, all right? Now, okay, so there's a Jesus of Nazareth. We determine that. There's a man here, a solid physical man. Is he what this book says he was, or anything akin to it? Right? That's the question there, too. So there's lots of ways of exploring that once we get a lock on the target. Once the viewer locks on to the person in a site template, we can use this template and do anything we want with it in terms of movement exercises. You never have a monitor. Remember what I said on day one. You do not want to work with anyone else in the room unless it's a training, unless you're teaching them. If you're working an operational target, no one should be in that room. Because if they have any interest whatsoever in what you're doing, they cannot not telegraph psychically or body language, even their eyes dilating, what they're interested in. What that will do, if you're in stage 4 and you say person, dead, famous, and whatever, and now the person that's interested, the tasker who gave you this, is all of a sudden they're chomping at the bit, right? And they're trying to maintain this poker face. But inside, you can't fool the unconscious. I mean, that's what we're doing here. The unconscious is not fooled. So they're transmitting their agenda here to you. And all of a sudden, you pick up on that, and the signal strength of that pulls you off, starts to skew you. You may become a little bit interested in this person now, more than you should be, because this person's energy is on that particular item, that they have an agenda. We call this stage 4 overlay. It occurs even if the person's not there. If I tell you, I want you to solve a problem for me, and we want to help somebody over here. I want you to determine what happened at this accident scene for me. And I give you that target, but my hidden agenda is I want to blackmail this person, and I don't tell you that, I lie to you. The energy of my lie eclipses the target data in stage 4. It overlays the agenda. What comes out is me lying to you. First, because the signal strength there is higher, of higher value. Okay, so what's your friend's name, first name?
Chris.
With a K or C?
C.
Chris. Let's just slap some terms up here. Chris has MS. What about it?
He's devastated. I mean, he's in a wheelchair. He's 20
What do we want in terms of remote viewing? What information do we want?
That would be a cure or a particular
There's
that
a
applies
cause
to
statement.
him.
Cause or a cure. That's two different things on a timeline. By convention, to the left, right is the past, and to the right of the moving now is the future. Two different things. So do we want to know, do we want to focus on the cause or the origin, which may be just genetic? Some breast tumors, on the saddest cases I work, are, for instance, breast tumors are the ones that are genetic and somatic in origin, and there's no, it's not pesticides, or it's not microwave radiation, or a synergetic effect of that kind of thing. It's just that they're doomed to begin with, and those are sad cases too. And genetic therapy isn't, well, I don't want to get into that. But cause or origin. Are we interested perhaps in the cause and origin of Chris's MS? We're interested maybe, but I don't think we should, in terms of time and sense of urgency, we should be focusing on the left side of the timeline, the past. Let's see if we can help the person, right? So, cure? All right. We want a cure. Chris, what about it? MS cure. If you,
like at that point, would you want to put like possible behind MS?
we'll get to that in a moment. MS cure. First of all, where are we in time? Let's say in the year 2200, if we're still alive, in the year 2200, there's an easy cure for MS. Is that going to help Chris now? Mind is outside of time. So we're going to have to constrain the cue temporarily to now or present time. Otherwise, I take it from someone who knows, you'll pick up devices that are in a prototype stage or fixes or emulatives or something, a vaccine that's 20 years hence or more that is an effective cure, but it doesn't help Chris now. So we actually have to pull in and constrain the search cue with a temporal qualifier. This one. I'm sorry, I'm going to put that over here for now. From this point on, nobody here in this room needs to use Chris's last name, because there's a complete chain of custody. There's a complete chain of custody. You're all here. You know what we're talking about. His friend, he knows who his friend is. There's a complete continuity, chain of custody. We don't have to use his last name. We don't even have to use Chris, as long as his friend, he only has one friend with MS. Suppose there is no cure. Suppose the cure is death. Many times, right? The cure is death. That is not going to help him either. But what's the next best thing? Treatment. Yes. So what we do is we incorporate both those things into the cue. And unconscious, our best friend will give us the best case. Treatment hyphen cure. Okay? A treatment or a cure. Is that all we're interested in? suppose the cure is in a top secret Chinese laboratory. Is that going to help, Chris? But there, it's, unconscious gave you what you asked for. You got exactly what you want in your internet Google search. Your search engine gave you what you wanted. You got what you wanted. Huh? Yeah. Available. Presently available. Okay? Now we're starting to cook. Chris, multiple sclerosis, the condition, presently available treatment or cure. There's still one more thing that might be wrong with this cue. Anybody know what it is? It's subtle. You may not. Good. Yeah. There you go. There you go. That's one. That's one more. Yeah. Let me just.
The superlative.
Yep. Optimum presently available treatment cure. Is there anything else? It's very subtle, but it's very important. How do we know it's multiple sclerosis? How do we know? That's the problem. That's a big problem, too. Alzheimer's. What the hell is Alzheimer's? In pathology, I mean, you have a general idea what Alzheimer's is, but do we really know? Is there an agreement? There's not a general agreement. There's standards, but there's not a general agreement. What about a cancer? What about cancer? And there's different types of cancers. There's different types of leukemias and things like that.
So what you're referring to is diagnosis, previous diagnosis, right?
I'm saying if the diagnosis is incorrect, we really screwed up the cue. This is going to be junk out because it's not multiple. Suppose he has leukemia instead of multiple sclerosis, then we wasted a week's worth of work or 2 days worth of work because it's junk in, junk out. Right? Instead of multiple sclerosis, just say present illness. We don't want to put just illness because unconscious could refer back. Let's say that Chris had smallpox when he was 7 years old. That's also it's also a major illness. So now which major illness are we referring to? All right. This is probably okay. This is probably okay. But there's a better cue. There's an elegant algorithm that can replace all of this. No kidding. It is one of the most valuable cues empirically that we've discovered in the business. This is a catch-all. Let's say that Chris has pancreatic cancer or a brain tumor that's even worse than the multiple sclerosis and the doctors didn't catch it. Okay? This will. Chris, optimum health trajectory lets unconscious completely off the leash to go in and in priority order, the first session will grab the worst thing first and subject it to the future. Trajectory implies, in the state-space analytical sense, movement in time. From this point, wherever you work the session, optimized for his health, whatever the condition may be. So even if you're healthy and you run this, you'll still get something that optimizes your health. It could be something small. If you have a major condition, this is going to give you something that you're looking for in terms of him. That will be very important. Is that clear? This is worth its weight in gold. No kidding. Very, very valuable to everybody. You just, if you want a tune-up, that will tell you what to do. Optimum health trajectory. If there's something that you don't know about that's wrong with you, then that pops up first as a problem. Let's say your heart, right? Let's say your heart. There's something wrong with your heart. You'll sketch a picture, and you'll sketch in your stage 3 sketch, your first stage 3 sketch, in your idea template. You'll just have a heart, and you'll say, well, gee, what does that have to do with my optimum health trajectory? It's unconscious telling you, you have a problem. First, you have to recognize the problem. There's something wrong with your heart. Then, in your subsequent sessions, it'll work out what you need to do to ameliorate the condition or to correct the condition. Okay? That's what immediately. Your unconscious is your best friend. Oh, glad you asked. Take a look at this. If there's nothing wrong with you and you're healthy, what will pop up is something that's a tonic or will improve your present health, or an exercise or a spa that you need to go to, or a particular ointment, anything that would improve your health, because that's your best friend telling you, hey, try this, do this. That's what that will do. Immediate.
Will this allow the mind to travel, let's say 5 years from now, when they decode the genome and find what gene is responsible for that and bring
We
back
don't
that
know.
information?
We have no idea what's going to. We go into this with no preconceived notions at all. If you do, you've screwed up already, and you might as well abandon the session, abort the session. Because if you go in thinking you know the answer, you've screwed this up. Okay, what this will do, optimum means optimum. It is in terms of a global approach that unconscious has to the problem. It optimizes your health right now. Period. Right now. That's what it does. Whatever pops out, that's the answer right now. You run this again in another week or another 2 months, it may be the same or it may have shifted to something new. Once you do that, it's locked. Okay? You can use any set of numbers you want as long as you append this here. But if you change this and you decide that you want to look at instead of Chris, you want to look at somebody else named Mark, these got to go because they point to another direction, another vector space, another metric space. So does that kind of give you an idea how complex cues can be? But if you don't take the time to do this correctly, you see now how much work this remote viewing process is. Make it worth your while by taking the time to get this correct. In our business, if we have a dicey cue, if there's something that we're exploring, like for instance a new line of technology, for instance, a new area of science, the general rule of thumb is if two trained remote viewers agree upon the cue, go with it. 99% chance that it's okay. So we're constrained to the things like the following: past, future, present, now, first, temporally speaking. First is last. Will last work? Don't use last because it's ambiguous. This is the last time I'm going to do this, and that was this is the last time I'm going to see her. And the last time I saw her was two different meanings. So we use final. Final. Next, that's a big one. Next. Then we can use things like nearest, preceding, or near term or short term. Those are available to us too. But these are the ones you guys will use here. Mostly these. Now is to present as residence is to home, for instance. Now means right now. Your best friend's location, it's a dog. Your best friend's location now, once you put your pen on that paper, it freeze frames it. The rest of the session, regardless of whether it takes a day or a week or a month, is at that snapshot in time wherever your best friend was when you started this session. As opposed to your best friend present time, that's spread out about 72 hours. Your Las Vegas or something like that. Residence is the particular spot, primary, Chandra Levy's murderer / residence. Puts primary residence, puts you right on top of the person's condo, home, tent, or if they're a vagrant on the road, that kind of thing, as opposed to home, Washington, D.C. How do we know these? Empirically, just by experimenting over the years. That's what happens.
Let's recap the information on properly forming a cue. Cues are interpreted literally. The format of the queue is the first most important step in solving a problem using RV. Do not make any assumptions when creating your search queue. This disc covers basic queuing for discrete targets only. You will cover more advanced target classes and queuing processes later in the Learn Remote Viewing set. All queues start with a discrete target and then refine it down to the specific question about that target. Each refinement is separated with a slash. The basic structure of a queue, therefore, looks like this. The best way to describe how to set up queues is by providing examples. Here are a number of examples that will work for setting up your own queues at home. Queue to determine if a person is alive or dead. Queues used in locating objects. Optimal trajectory queues. And finally, an excellent health queue. Over the years, it has been determined experimentally the best terms to use for the most efficient results. A few words that you may wish to use in queues that you make should be as follows. All queues are built using the basic queue structure from the gross to the detail. Your queue should work as long as there is no ambiguity in your queue and it is arranged from the gross to the detail. For example, if you wanted to know who was going to win the next Super Bowl, you could construct your queue like this. Next Super Bowl football game / winning team's hometown / most recognizable feature.
For stage 4s, make sure you write all the 8 columns across the top of the page after you number it, and treat it the same way as if it were, actually cut the worksheets, recreate them, the ones you've been using. But this makes you more attentive. By having blank sheets of paper, you have to be far more attentive and have far more attention to detail than you do if you're just filling in the blanks on forms, pre-formatted paper. This makes you far more attentive. You're forced to know what to do next. So that's why we do this. You're going to work this afternoon an unknown. You're going to solve for an unknown that nobody knows until this afternoon. If you do your job right, you guys will be the first one to solve this problem. And I'm not kidding. I have not worked it. I'm not going to work it either. You are. But you're going to work it blind. You're not allowed to work front-loaded sessions in a level 1 and 2. Only 3. Having said that, however, it still is an unknown. If you do your job right, you'll leave here with something that is a first. It is something that we can solve in class that nobody knows. This one first. You're going to have the flow chart. This is all done on clean bond paper. So that's going to up the level of confusion. Keep your finger on the next step. What's next, what's next, what's next, what's next. Just follow those arrows on that flow chart. That's what the flow chart's for. I'll read the target reference numbers. You prepare your paper the same way that you did, name, date, and time, up in the upper right-hand corner. As soon as I read you the target reference numbers, produce an ideogram and off to town you go. That's a mistake. No, there's even a worse mistake. Yeah, he has a picture of the last feedback target on the table. His peripheral vision will pick that up, so he'll morph the Haj in with this other target that you're about to do. So, bad.
Try to wean yourself from using the word descriptor list and the process flow chart. Use them only when you need to, but keep in mind that they impede the RV process, so discard them as soon as you have committed them to memory. Create each necessary RV template as you move through each stage of your session. This will enable you to begin breaking away from your dependency of utilizing pre-made templates. Eventually, as you become more proficient in remote viewing, you will cease to use the template outlines entirely and simply write down pure session data in the same format and structure that the templates have trained you. This target requires that you have templates A, B, 3 sets of templates C and D, along with template E. The order of your templates should be A, B, C, D, C, D, C, D, E. In just a few moments, you will see Ed Dames provide the target reference numbers for Target 4. At that time, you must pause your DVD player while the target reference numbers are displayed on the screen and immediately begin your session.
This is about a 15-minute session, so just move through it as fast as you can. Now, here we go. 9900 8640.
Let's continue. Please have your second completed session in front of you before you watch the target feedback. If you did not yet remote view the second target, stop here, go back, and do it now before proceeding.
Okay, is the target, what do we got here? Person, place, thing, or an event, or a combination of the above? What are we dealing with? Combination? What do we have? Anybody want to take a swag?
A thing.
A thing? What kind of thing? A what?
Chair.
A chair. That's pretty jejune. A chair?
A leather recliner.
A leather recliner. Okay, I think I've been in this business too long. Did everybody hear that? This guy says, I mean, I gotta commend you for your bravery, you know. He says he's got a chair and it's a leather recliner. It's a chair, all right, with leather. It's old Sparky, Savannah State electric chair. Good job. Very good job. That's your target, old Sparky, Savannah State. Georgia's electric chair. Great job. Congratulations. Good job. Not bad. Not bad. Bad at all.
That explains why I got hot and burning.
Did you? No. Okay. Why don't you stand up and go and read to us all of your session? What were your stage twos? Hot and burning.
Well, that was my first.
Okay. Did you go into stage 4 at all?
Yeah, but I left the hot and burning and prickly part out.
Hot, burning, and prickly. Those might be concepts associated with that. We'll take a short break, and I want to go right back into another session soon. But this time, I want you to attend to housekeeping, because you don't have those pre-printed worksheets. You have to make your own. And this time, I would like for you to attend to that. That's the goal of the next session, is to make sure that you've ordered your pages correctly. That's what you're going to be doing subsequent to this workshop. All right?
Because of the added complexity of not utilizing pre-made templates, we're going to execute another target without adding additional steps, so you may have another opportunity to become more familiar using blank paper. Proceed through the session, indicating aspects X, A, and B. Finish your session by producing a site template. Prepare to pause your DVD player as Ed Dames is about to provide the session target reference numbers. This target should not take more than 45 minutes.
Seven, 0, 0, 7, 2, 8, 1, 3.
Let's continue. Please have your third completed session in front of you before you watch the target feedback. If you did not yet remote view the third target, stop here, go back, and do it now before proceeding.
I'm interested in whatever you labeled as the target, X. This time, you've got enough of erudition here to be able to direct your hand to put an X on the target. We're interested in the target. So whatever you labeled as X at your site, let's turn our attention to that. What was your X? Describe your X. What you've got here is the solution to a problem. You have an answer. In order to put it in the perspective, to conduct any real analysis, you need to know what the question was. I got that. And I'm going to give that to you soon. But before we do that, let's take a look at the target. We need to describe the target. What is your X? How would you describe your X in terms of stage 4? If you look at the S4 of X, and how X appears in your site template, what is it? What is X? A structure. Anybody else got anything like a structure? Now, by definition in our business, a structure has a right angle. So here, if it doesn't have a right angle, is this man-made or natural? Is it a stone or natural or both? Is it man-made or natural? Right. Man-made. Anybody else get man-made? Man-made. Anybody else for X? What is X? Is X in a microbe, a tree, a man-made thing? Is that your X? That's your X? Okay, describe that for me. What is that? In stage 4.
Dense.
It's what?
Dense.
No, okay, it's dense. What?
It's round.
It's dense. It's round. Is it round or is it spherical? Or both? Round. Okay, what else is it? Is it a thing? Is it man-made or natural?
Man-made. Well,
It's not a diatom?
no.
Okay, so I'm holding his feet to the fire on this. This is what you asked me for yesterday. How will he know whether something is AOL or not? He's telling me. I'm putting him on the spot. I'm saying, is that man-made or natural? He's saying, it's man-made. So somewhere between yesterday and today, he was able to fine-tune his antenna and say, I know now when this is AOL and when it's not. It just takes training. That's all. What do you have for X? That's your X? Okay. Is that curved line for X? Is that a thing? Is the outline of a thing? Or is that a motion line? It's an outline. Okay, it's an outline of a curved thing. Then you should finish the thing the next time. If you're going to, don't stop the curve with your hand. Go all the way around if it's a curved thing. Or if it's motion, put an arrowhead on it. All right? What did you get for X?
A curve.
A curved thing.
It's an open, round, up.
Open, round, and up.
High.
Is there anything there? Up high? A dome-shaped object, man-made or natural? Okay, so are we all in agreement that we got a man-made object? Okay, what is it? Anybody want to take a swag? A vehicle? What kind of vehicle?
Flying vehicle.
A flying vehicle? Let me see your stage 4s, please. You're saying you got a vehicle in flight. Does anybody else have anything like that? You have something in flight? So, if this is the answer to a question, and we're getting close to the answer to the question, what are we dealing with here? What is this? It's a man-made, collate and summarize your data out loud. It's a man-made object that's in space. What? Okay, so what now? Let's get down to the detail. What kind of a man-made object in space? What kind of AIs did you guys have attendant to this? Is this familiar? What are the I's associated with X? What are the I's, the I column? You got an object, a man-made object in stage 4, attendant with X. Anybody get any I's? Did anybody venture out, dare to venture out into the I column? What? Communicating as an I. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I had foreign hope. I didn't know where
I hope it was in AOL. I hope it, where did you put it? What the hell is a UFO? What is a UFO? You put it in the tangible column? Intangible column. It doesn't belong there. Put it in AOL. UFO, AOL. There, that's where it belongs to. BBC News. UFO streaks through Martian sky. The U.S. Spirit rover on Mars has seen a UFO streak across the red planet sky. Astronomers say it could be the first meteor seen from the surface of another world or redundant orbiting spacecraft sent to Mars 30 years ago. We may never know, but we're still looking for clues, said Dr. Mark Lemon from Texas A&M University. Whatever it was, Spirit was lucky to catch sight of the UFO, as the rover's main mission is to look downward to study rocks and soil on the planet. Only occasionally does it raise its sights toward the sky to study the atmosphere of Mars. But it was on just such an occasion when Spirit was observing the sky with the green filter of its panoramic camera that the roving geologist came across the surprise, a streak across the peach-colored Martian heavens. Mission controllers say the streak was probably the brightest object in the sky at the time. If the UFO was not a shooting star, then it could have been one of 7 out-of-commission spacecraft that still orbit Mars. From the object's motion, scientists do not think it was Russian probes Mars 2, Mars 3, Mars 5, or Phobos 2, or the American probes Mariner 9 or Viking 1. That leaves Viking 2, which has a polar orbit that would fit with the north-south orientation of the streak. In addition, only Viking 1 and 2 are in orbits that could produce the type of motion as fast as that seen by Spirit. Is this an alien object? Do we know for sure? No, but we could find out. Let's say it's not. Let's say it's a man-made object from Earth. All right? Look at some of your sketches. Some people AOL'd aircraft, and others actually drew appendages like the old Sputnik stuff with solar panels, those kinds of things. So one of the things that I wanted to do in this exercise was to differentiate between a natural object and a man-made object. That's the minimum amount of data I wanted here. I wanted you guys to be able to tell me if that's a rock or if that's a thing, not a man-made object. That's all. Now, he actually said that this is a shiny metallic ball in deep space. I mean, that's actually the information they came up with, that it's a spherical object. The mistake he made was calling it, and continuing to call it ball-shaped. Don't use a noun in stage 2, because that evokes AOL. If it's ball-shaped, maybe it's a ball, basketball, off you go. You know, spherical, not ball-shaped. Open, vast, empty, vacuum, space. He's in space. Void, vacuum, space, vacuum, deep space, spherical object moving through deep space. So we're on to something. And now you can take your site template and do anything you want with it. You walk away with that gem. You've got what you want now, a diagram of the answer to the question. You can explore it till the cows come home, get as much detail as you want. You can know as much about that thing right there as you want. Where it came from, who built it, who communicates with it now, all those kinds of things. whatever you want. But you have to have chain of custody. There's no breaks allowed. You've got to have that continuity, and you have to do the work to get to the site template before you can do anything else. But once you grab that, that's it. You've got chain of custody. You can always go back like a bookmark and continue to read and gather more detail. For trained remote viewers, working independent of each other, whether blind or front-loaded, the mutually corroborating data. That means when 2 or more viewers say the same thing, that data is 100% correct. That's the value of networking and working as a group. So if I give all of you a front-loaded target and you work it, even if you're front-loaded and your imagination goes wild, we can still compare notes. And when people start coming up with the same sketches, we can start to lean on that in terms of validity and come up with some pretty good answers.
Congratulations! You have completed Workshop 2. In this RV training disc you learned how to identify and declare tangibles and intangibles in Stage 4, how to properly format a cue, or the formalized search term for discrete targets, and how to begin executing RV sessions utilizing blank paper. On Disc 3 of this course, you will learn to remote view front-loaded targets. Ed will cover a new range of targets and problem sets to further concrete your RV ability. You will also RV a near-future event right along with the class. Before proceeding to the third disc in this training set, practice what you have learned thus far. Set up your own cues and perform at least one complete remote viewing session, including the completion of a site template every other day for at least 1 week. Welcome to the Learn Remote Viewing Workshop 2 DVD. It is crucial that you do not skip lessons nor look ahead at lesson plans. Prematurely viewing information and session feedback before you complete a previous lesson will seriously inhibit your ability to learn this groundbreaking skill.
For years, retired U.S. military intelligence officer Major Ed Dames and his team of professional remote viewers have been looking over the horizon of time. But recently, an event has been foreseen, so catastrophic, it marks the end of an age. The age of mankind. The day we all knew would come is upon us. Find out what.
Everything you see here will be scrap metal.
Find out when.
When the space shuttle is forced down to the ground, that's when it begins.
Find out how to survive.
These zones are eminently survivable.
The Kill Shot. Order now at thekillshot.com or call toll-free 1-866-607-8439. It's about time you knew the truth.
This colloquium represents the culmination of 20 years of my work with regard to the UFO problem.
About what the government has kept hidden.
So where are we? Where is that? It's Mars, planet Mars.
Finally, everything will be revealed.
The best videos that we have in terms of a hot zone of UFO activity, it was really important.
This presentation by retired U.S. military intelligence officer Major Ed Dames reveals never-before publicized information regarding UFO technology, the purpose of crop circles, Area 51, and more. Are aliens real, attacking the UFO enigma? Order now at ouraliensreal.com or call toll-free 1-866-607-8439.